So, yeah, what exactly is the oil crunch?
The oil crunch is the idea that we get to the point when supply cannot meet all the demand, and therefore the price has to go up, in effect to destroy some demand.
And when do you predict it will be?
Well, all the calculations tell us that it's going to be no later than 2014, and it could be as early as 2013, it could be even earlier. The decline is now pretty terrifying. Give you an idea. At the moment, the global oil supply is losing the equivalent of losing the entire North Sea in about 15 months, or the entire production of Iran, which is OPEC's second biggest producer, in about 11 months.
That's hard to even get your head around.
It's extremely hard to get your head around. And that shows that the enormity of the challenge of even maintaining supply.
And with the deep sea oil, there will be delays, obviously, in drilling now. What is we're going to sort of intersect the decline? Is it going to...
Well, at the moment, the most probable date for the intersection, is still 2014. But that depends on OPEC being prepared to use all the spare capacity it's sitting on and all that spare capacity working. If either of those conditions don't happen, then of course the date comes back towards you. And if countries elect not to supply, as the perception gets round that this is tight and valuable, it would be fully understandable if sovereign governments started saying, well, we'll look after our folks first and we will export less, and offsetting that with a higher price. Then again, that brings it back towards you.
What does that mean for a place like Australia that doesn't produce most of its own oil?
Well, Australia is well equipped in this sense that you have large coal exports and you have large gas exports. Both those energy forms are going to be in great demand, and you're going to be getting a very good price for them, which means you, as a country, can go into the market and bid quite aggressively for the 40% of oil consumption that you don't produce yourself. So, in that sense, you won't be too badly hit. You will remain the lucky country.
Can you just explain to me, very simply then, what you think will happen after 2014?
Yes, after 2014, the constraint is going to be the supply of oil. So every time the supply gets very tight, the price will go up, and our economies will receive a setback, which is normally known as a recession. Then that will reduce the pressure on the system, things will start getting better, and if the constraint is still there, we will do the same thing again. We will have another recession. So we've got a sort of turbulent decade, I would think.
And what do you think of the IEA's latest projections?
They seem to have ruled out the possibility of business as usual. They feel they can get it to add up with a scenario which involves governments delivering on all their assorted promises, which seems a pretty unlikely outcome. So, yeah, the red lights may not be flashing, but the orange lights are certainly flashing from the IEA. And from sort of private information, we know that they are saying rather more dramatic things behind closed doors to government than they're putting into the public print. So it's one of those reports you have to read with great care and a certain amount of understanding to see what they're really saying as opposed to what they appear to be saying.
What do you mean?
Well, what I mean is you don't have to read too much between the lines to see that what they're saying is that future supply is likely to be constrained, is likely to be difficult. And as they've been steadily revising their demand figures up, literally all year in their monthly reports, you see already we're back to the point where the world is using more oil than it was even in the middle of 2008, the last time we were booming crazily. We're producing more, but only a little bit more. So already we've caught that up. In oil demand terms, the recession is behind us, and demand is powering up, driven by the non-OECD world, the Chinas and the Indias, where their growth is being fueled by oil.
And what are you most worried, really, is going to happen?
I think what I'm worried about is simply this idea that we're going to have a very disruptive decade in which economic activity is going to be choppy. We're going to have good years, we're going to have bad years. Unemployment is likely to remain pretty high, and that produces all sorts of stresses and unpleasantnesses. Immediate prospects for our children are not terribly good. They're going to find life a lot more difficult. So ultimately I remain optimistic because I think humanity is adaptable. I think it is clever. The fact that we don't quite know how we're going to get out of it is, shall we say, incidental. We will get out of it in the end. But we've got this rather unpleasant period coming up, and it's very difficult to see how we can avoid that. We can make it less bad, and that's why some of us spend quite a lot of time banging on about this. But I'm not sure we can do a lot more than make it less bad.